Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is getting more and more exciting as time flies by as we see the development of Jon and Dave's new Star Wars universe and how it's going to be respected further and how it's going to be treated in a different light under Disney and Lucasfilm this time around. Starting off with Mando Season 3 and Ahsoka, that's going to lead into Season 4 of Mando as well. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that we do know about when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy is that she's been having a lot of trouble with both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew for numerous reasons that we have gone over multiple times already, so I won't really repeat that. But when we look at everything related to what Jon and Dave are currently doing right now, is that they really are doing something very special for the fan base. They really are dragging in beloved aspects of Star Wars Legends and throwing it into the current canon. And Jon and Dave, they know pretty much everything about everything when it comes to the books and the comics and the video games back 20 years ago. Now that brings us to exactly what Kathleen Kennedy recently had to say that wasn't so nice about George Lucas and Jon Favreau, and seemed a little bit egotistical, at least to me, when hearing about this from Kathleen Kennedy and what she had to say about herself, Leslie Headland, her take on Star Wars and what it's meant to be, and stuff like that, and comparing herself to George and Jon. So let's tap right into this, because we already know that Jon and Dave are dedicated to their work. Nothing is getting in their way. In fact, they stepped down from helping out with the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, so now they even have more free time on their hands. So Lucasfilm is preparing to make numerous announcements, not just at Celebration, but also at D23 to extend the roadmap of Star Wars installments to present to the fans. However, Kathleen Kennedy as of late has been saying very sensitive things about creator George Lucas that may not agree with a large portion of the fan base when she was questioned about the Acolyte. She went on to state the following and said this about creators like Favreau, Lucas, and others out there. She went on to state the following: "Myself and Leslie have really been enjoying what path we have been taking with the Acolyte by cutting off that burden from the community that always demanded George's vision to become a part of this series, and it's so refreshing, I must say, to finally do something new. This is the main reason why we did not want George involved in the sequel trilogy movies, because to me, he leans more toward an unoriginal side of storytelling that doesn't really expand the universe properly, and it's something that we could not afford to have him involved in, especially with this show." Let me just stop right here for a second. Now, Kathleen Kennedy being the one saying that George Lucas is a guy that steps on the side of unoriginal storytelling is completely false. If you look at the prequels, it's probably the most different series of films in comparison to the originals. Then if you look at the sequels, it looks like they've really kind of carbon copied A New Hope with The Force Awakens, and of course then tried to kind of do something similar with The Rise of Skywalker, apparent to the Return of the Jedi film. And I get it, there's parallels in Star Wars, that's a normal thing, but when it came to the sequel trilogy, there were legitimate scenes that were like literal carbon copies of moments in the original trilogy. I mean, heck, we even got a trench run in The Force Awakens. Let's just leave it at that. But anyways, the thing about all of this is that Kathleen Kennedy putting George on the hot seat, really putting him on the spot and saying that he is an unoriginal storyteller, that's why they wanted nothing to do with him for the sequel trilogy movies. Keep in mind, George wanted Luke to be the main character in Episode 7, and that's what Michael Arndt actually picked up on from George Lucas, because he wanted to carry on that vision of Luke being the center of everything, visually speaking, not by word of mouth, through the characters in the first film. And that was disregarded. Michael Arndt got let go, there was a whole shakeup, a whole back and forth scenario of creative differences and how Michael Arndt wanted to just leave, and different things between himself and Kathy. So obviously, Kathleen Kennedy has a personal problem with George, it seems. There's something going on we're not quite sure about, but it's also a problematic scenario on a business level. Now, she is actually saying that the acolyte completely shifts away from George Lucas's philosophy of Star Wars and more. Moving on. Now, she goes on to say, we know that Jon and Dave are doing their own thing with the help of Lucas, and that's great and all, but it's not going to compare to what we have been developing. It's so exciting to watch this unfold as we are. What Jon and George are focused on, to me, is a big mistake with the evolution of this franchise, and they don't really seem to know what needs to be done with a franchise as big as this one. This is why we are so excited for the Acolyte. People like Jon and Dave need to realize that what they are pursuing isn't necessarily original and refreshing, it's fan service. Yes, but myself and Leslie are motivated by telling new stories in this new show, and we just cannot wait to share more information on it all. Now, this really is kind of trying to sabotage Jon and Dave, putting them on the spot, saying that what they are embracing is just fan service. Some fans may agree with that. I don't know. I don't think it's fan service. I think it's just kind of really just demanding or meeting up with the demands of the fans, of common sense. I mean, really just creating fun things. Very great, happy things to look forward to. I don't think that throwing Ahsoka, Luke, Boba Fett in these Mandoverse era shows is fan service. I think it's just what should be expected. You know, when we actually have Star Wars as a brand and focusing on a post-Return of the Jedi era, it just makes sense to have Luke in this story or to have Boba Fett in this story since he survived. Stuff like that. I don't think it's fan service at all. What would be fan service is if they just threw in those characters for no apparent reason that did not serve the story. That would truly be fan service, where it's kind of just, you know, clueless insertion of characters. But they always have a reason. Luke came in to the story to save Grogu, to take Grogu. He had a reason to come in. Luke didn't just pop up and take down Dark Troopers, right? So you can see how Jon and Dave are excellent writers on that front. Same thing with Ahsoka. Ahsoka came into the whole picture because Din has to actually look for her and kind of, you know, find her to gain information. So there's always some kind of quest or some kind of reason behind it all. Anyways, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about this, because it's a very complex scenario between the grudge of George and Kathleen and why George did not attend the premiere of Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. He has a lot of problems with Kathleen Kennedy, so there is something personal going on there. I know a lot of it had to do with the deletion of many scenes from Episode 9 that George advised, and that had a lot to do with it, but there's more to it than that. There's something definitely larger at play here than what anybody would know. So, anyways, I would really like to hear what each and every one of you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.